That's a lot of smoke outside. Oh no, that's rain. Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Valnety, and for the past 7 years I've been writing quite actively in Estonian, English. I've been writing long form, short form, fan fictions, originals, and with that much experience under my belt, I decided that it would be great to share what I've learned, and I've divided them into categories of beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And just a disclaimer about those is that they're how I perceive them. Maybe something that's on the level of advanced is self-explanatory to you, something you already know, but in my opinion this is the importance hierarchy. I remember the word. So let's start with number 1, beginner. My first point at beginner is it's okay to be picky with what you read, because what you read influences how you write. So primarily I feel like you should read in your own genre and your style to improve the way you write, because that way you learn about the common tropes, the pacing of the books, maybe about the balance of action versus description. For example, if you read a lot of classics, you know, there's like pages upon pages about the beautiful blue sky, and then you read a contemporary romance book, for example, and then there's just like, oh, he looked pretty nice, a suit and stuff. And you should stick to those things that you want to be like, because you become what you consume eventually. But don't only be limited to it, because you can really mix and match the elements, maybe decide a new genre that you like. It's okay to be picky with what you read, that's my point. But don't close yourself in. Read what you need to improve your writing. The second point under beginner, that's a lot of smoke outside. Oh no, that's rain. Okay. Make your story actually digestible, especially if you plan to share it. And what I mean here is as low a number as possible of grammar mistakes, and please break text into paragraphs. I know especially a lot of very beginner writers do this thing where they just write a huge block of text, and I've discussed this in videos before, but that's so annoying to read. And making your story digestible is also important when you go back to read and learn from it, because you should do that. You shouldn't just write things and then leave them to be for the rest of eternity for no one to see, including yourself. My last point under beginner is vivid descriptions. And what I mean by that is you should not write in an empty room. I know it's very compelling at times to just write dialogue and action, and suddenly you're reading it back and you're like, I know what I was thinking during this, but where are they? What's going on? And then you just like, even if it's very briefly mentioned, they started walking, or they arrived in the room, they sat down, they took some tea because suddenly there's tea on the table and they were just outside building snowman, right? So that's not a good thing. Don't write in empty space. And when you describe people and things, describe them through actions. So not that you meet the character for the first time and it's like, she had blue eyes, brown hair, wore clothes, this and that, never smiled, and then you never mention anything about the character's appearance again. From then on you should like describe through action, like maybe a nervous habit is playing with hair, and you can like say she talks on the ends of her brown hair with yada yada yada, you know, or her blue dress blew in the wind on the ceiling on the top deck of the ship, you know. And another thing that helps with descriptions is synonyms. I'm sure you like those. Use them rather more than less, but don't make them too complicated, like nobody wants to have to Google every third word they read. Play with it and use expressions and metaphors according to your narrator. Like when you're writing in first person, you can use expressions they grew up with, or expressions only they understand, or maybe an inside joke in their inner monologue, or the way they perceive the world, which is the retelling, which is the telling of the story. Now moving on to intermediate. The first point in intermediate is pacing. To help with pacing, mix short and long sentences, because it also adds this kind of flowy vibe as well as more tension at times. You can say music stopped, period. Like that's literally 2-word sentence right there, right? Music stopped. I looked at the clock. I didn't mean to rap. It was just kind of a mishap. That's not the example I was going for, but those were all short sentences. And you don't have to go, the music stopped and I looked away and then there was a knock on the door and I stood up, placing my bowl on the table, comma, comma, comma. I like my long sentences too, but mix them in with the short ones to make the writing flow more. And only dwell on necessary things, because your story shouldn't be about things that don't add to the story, right? Kind of moving away from the actual writing now, my tip for intermediate writers is 1 or 2 serious works at a time, because it gets confusing, you forget your own character voices, and it helps when you really want to get somewhere with writing. It helps when you focus on one thing at a time, because then you'll finish that thing and you can go on to the next one. Because if you write like 4 or 5 things at a time, you have like, oh, this one's like halfway through and this one's a third of the way through, and I think I have like a few paragraphs for that, but I also have the entire world building thought out, and it gets confusing, you mix it up. Discipline matters more than the motivation. I don't care if you write once a week or every day, or if you write 100 words or 1,000 words in one setting, but do it regularly because your brain gets used to it. And think of it as discipline is this fire you always keep going. It burns somewhere inside of you because you want to get the story out, you have to get the story out. And discipline is this eternal flame that's always there, and it's keeping you warm when nothing else is. Motivation is like oxygen. It's like the wind. It comes and it makes discipline just burst into something bigger, and it helps you when you have the discipline, because it's easier to write better if you're already writing. When you wait for the motivation to come and then it's there and you're overwhelmed and you don't know what to do, and then it's gone and you didn't get anything done. You just thought about how you should do it. Moving on to the next point in intermediate, read your own old works. You see me, if you've seen my own comments on Wattpad, I do it a lot and I never make any corrections into the actual story. I go into the comments and just like kind of say that this could have been better, or I could have worded that way, because it's almost a time machine that I can go back and see, oh, I was like this and I've improved these things, but these are still kind of and if you cringe, that's a good thing, because if you don't cringe, that means you haven't grown. Or you don't have to like physically cringe with, because I've gotten over that. I'm okay with reading my old writing, but you have to see that you're not the same anymore. Something I'm still learning myself is that framework is your friend, which is the next point in intermediate, especially in further drafts. It helps with keeping the characters in check in terms of growth. It helps with having no plot holes. It helps with remembering all the important things you wanted to say when you started writing the story. And I'm very much the type of writer who makes the things up as she goes. And I've done it for a while now, but I've discovered that framework and plotting ahead, maybe it makes the writing part a bit more boring, but at the same time exciting, because you know what's going to happen. It's like, oh, I really want to write that part already. But it helps so much to keep track and keep the whole thing coherent. And with that, we get to advanced. If you have already read your own thing, or your own work, you should get feedback from others. I recommend your feedback buddy is someone you know, if possible someone who knows your writing already and knows your blind spots, because you have to be open to the fact that you don't notice the things other people do. And I'm not saying go for feedback with your first draft, because I didn't. That was a whole mess. You really don't need to show your first draft to anyone. My second advice to advanced writers that I'm also working on currently is experiment. If you usually write long form, try poems. If you usually write romance, try adventure. If you usually write first person, try third person. Just kind of play around with it. And it may be uncomfortable because you're not this good at it, but it can also lead to discoveries, and you can actually have so much fun with that. My last piece of advice is don't forget to enjoy. Writing should be something that excites you. It should not be a chore, though sometimes, especially if you're trying to apply some discipline, it may seem like a chore. But give yourself rewards, playlists, make aesthetics, and they might also help you write, because that's how some people, me included sometimes, get to know their characters better. But just make sure you use them as tools and not distractions. Don't get lost in choosing the perfect picture to represent the character's hair instead of actually describing it. And those are all my points. I'd like to hear what you think every writer should know, and also what you are currently working on. And with that, I end the video. I'm Valnety, and I hope to see you again. Until then, stay creative.